Today we have a number of nominees on the agenda. 5 judicial nominees are on the agenda for the first time. Joel Carson, 10th Circuit, Colm Connolly, Delaware. William Jung, Middle District, Florida. Mary Ellen Noreka, Delaware. Ryan Holt, Federal Claims. The minority has requested that they be held over, so these 5 nominees will be so held. Let's see, we got 5. We got 9 now? One more. Okay, just as soon as we get 9 members, we'll hold those over. There's also 1 administrative conference nominee, 1 U.S. attorney nominee, 3 U.S. Marshal nominees on today's agenda. There's a request that we hold over the administrative conference nominee. So when we get the group here, we'll do that. We will vote on the U.S. attorney nominee and 3 U.S. Marshal nominees. I would also like to comment on the tragedy that occurred in Parkland, Florida, beyond what I said, I suppose now 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The tragedy was devastating to all of us and to every American. Schools, as we all ought to be able to plan on, should be refuges of learning, freedom, and peace, not a setting for a massacre. Events like this require that we come together in a clear and bipartisan manner and find a way forward. There's a tendency among Republicans and Democrats on gun policy to hold out for legislation favored by groups on extremes of ideological spectrum. We appear to be in a unique position where there's a real opportunity to work towards legislation that can advance a common cause, and that common cause ought to be a safer and more civil society. Very recently, Senator Feinstein and Senator Cornyn were able to discuss issues dealing with this, particularly where we can concentrate our efforts so we can be successful. I believe that we should work to protect constitutional rights and keep guns out of the hands of dangerous persons. To this end, there have been a number of legislative proposals. This includes the acronym STOP, or in other words, Stop School Violence Act, which I'm co-sponsoring, and I thank Senator Hatch for his hard work on the bill. This proposal would reauthorize the Secure Our Schools Act to offer the Department of Justice grants to states to help our schools implement proven, evidence-based programs that stop school violence before such violence happens. It will also provide grants to schools looking to improve their infrastructure to prevent and deter potential school shooters. I'd like to tell you about 2013, and this happens to be the last time I think we had a gun debate in the Senate, that I introduced an amendment with Senator Cruz that would authorize $300 million to make schools safer and improve the background check system. That amendment had the bipartisan support of more than half of the Senate, but failed because we didn't get enough support on the Democratic side. Senator Grassley Cruz could have made a real difference and prevented some of the mass shootings. Instead, it failed because the Senate failed to come together for the good of the country. Hopefully that won't be repeated. Another proposed bill that would look to keep firearms out of the hands of dangerous people is a Fix NICS bill. A sad truth is that federal agencies and state governments do not always upload their relevant information to the NICS database. This has had disastrous and tragic consequences, as you can tell at the Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs. The Fix NICS Act would require federal agencies to report information and hold accountable those who do not support or submit the names of people that should not be able to buy guns. It would also provide resources to the states to help with this reporting. I also support the ATF's effort to issue a regulation to ban bump stocks. If that effort proves unsuccessful, I'm also willing to consider a legislative ban. These are legislative efforts that will prevent mass gun violence and make our country safer. In addition to legislation, this committee has an important oversight role to play. The great tragedy of the Parkland shooting is that it was preventable, and the FBI and local law enforcement failed to act on credible tips that should have neutralized the killer and gotten him some help. At my direction, the FBI and social media companies like Google and Facebook are briefing every committee member's staff on their response to the warnings about the shooter's behavior. It's been clear that these briefings, that the systems designed to prevent troubled individuals like the Parkland shooter from engaging in violent acts failed and failed miserably. Government must be held accountable for its mistakes. It is also clear that private companies can do more to prevent future mass shootings by identifying threatening content and warning law enforcement officials. To this end, we will be holding an oversight hearing on shooting and school safety on March the 14th. We have enough members here to hold over the names that I've given, so those names are held, or those nominees are held over. Senator Feinstein.